Welcome to No Straight Lines, the podcast that gets real about performance, resilience, and what it really takes to grow, lead, and thrive. This isn't just about the wins, it's about the work, the grit, the setbacks, and the strength to keep going when things go wrong. I'm Lawrence Windmill, your host, an entrepreneur, and someone who's learned resilience through facing some of life's toughest moments. Each week I sit down with leaders from the world of business, sport, entertainment and the community to unpack the moments that shaped them, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Because success, it's never a straight line. This is No Straight Lines, stories of the unbreakable. Neil, welcome to No Straight Lines, stories of the unbreakable. It started off with humble beginnings, didn't it?
Right, yeah.
In Bridgend. So how did you get into rugby, and what was the first team you played for?
First team I played for would have been Litchard School, primary school. Obviously start off in primary school and then you work your way up. So I had a great PE teacher called Mr. Terry Evans, mad into his rugby. Just a little school, just probably about half a mile where we lived. Some good rugby players there. I just started playing rugby down in Litchard School. Didn't play any mini or junior rugby at that time. There was probably junior rugby going on in Bridgend. Pencoed were very, very strong at the time. I do remember that. But basically just played for the school then. So
was that Brynteg as well?
Yeah. And then went on from Litchard School to Brynteg School. And obviously another fantastic PE teacher called Mr. Keith Crockett, who's still alive today. I've seen him a few weeks ago. Fantastic guy. I just played for Brynteg School then up until about 16 or 17. I wasn't first choice. I was in the B's, was in the C's sometimes. But I don't know, I had a lucky break and then went and played for Tondu Youth, a year young. Just one of those teams. We had a fantastic team.
But it's interesting on that story. I know we'll go into Tondu Youth in a minute.
Yeah.
So it started with a school teacher. He was the person, Mr. Evans, I think it was. You said
Evans
who sort of started that pathway for you. And then you said you were playing with the B team, sometimes the C team. But so there was something driving you. There must have been, because all right, you put in the work, you put in the commitment, but there must have been something else, because not everybody makes it today, and you certainly did. So what was driving you? I
don't know. Well, probably being in the B's and the C's probably was driving me. Probably didn't want to be in the B's and C's, but you know what happens sometimes. And just fortunate then to go and play for Tondu Youth, and I suppose everyone needs a lucky break along the way somewhere. And obviously we had a very, very successful season with Tondu. We went unbeaten and we played in the National Stadium and we won the cup. I think at the time there was youth team of the year throughout Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England, and Tondu Youth. We actually won youth team of the UK.
Unbeaten then?
Unbeaten all season, yeah. But obviously I was a year young, and then obviously when you get to finals, like youth finals and that, you get selectors coming along, youth selectors, and then they, lucky enough they said, I was playing outside half of the time. I was just outside half, and then when they said, he's a year young, they like, when I'm a year young, I was really good and everything. And then got picked to play for Wales Youth then.
That's interesting, because you've had this, you're obviously a natural athlete, you must be, there was something driving you. I know you've got to be competitive.
Of course.
You said the motivation was to get out of the C team and out of the B team and into the A team. But at that time as well, because you come from a big rugby family, you were two brothers, haven't you? Ian and Roddy. That's your twin brother, isn't it?
Twin brother, yeah.
And this is quite unique. The three of you played further down the line, senior rugby down at Llanelli.
That's right, yeah.
So a massive leap forward, and quite unique, I think, for three brothers to be playing for the same team.
Yeah, well, we'll just go on to that a bit later, but obviously then we went. Then a year later, the youth and the schools combined to make a team. They did.
Yeah.
So we went to Canada for a month, and fortunately got picked for that.
Wow.
And Martin, who was coming in later, and he was picked as well.
He was there as well.
And he was a year young as well, Martin.
Was Roddy in that team as well?
No, Roddy wasn't in the team. No. But because it was Wales, it was, and obviously there was a lot of boys, school boys who were still in school, and obviously the youth boys. They decided to have a combined team. So I'd imagine there's about 16 boys from the youth and 14 from the schools. And we went over to Canada for a month, and we were really, really successful. Had a great tour, had a great laugh, had a great coach called Alan Lewis from Slethley. And when we returned home, I hadn't played any senior rugby.
Yeah.
And then he phoned me up about a week after we getting home and saying, do you fancy coming down to have a crack down in Slethley?
Wow.
At the time it was like a 6-game trial, it was like. And then, you know, back in the day I had to go to Tondu and ask him, can I have permission to go down and play? And I know. Anyway, they gave me the green light, and I went down, myself went down, Wayne Proctor, winger.
Aaron Proctor, yeah.
Gwyn Jones, the guy who unfortunately broke his neck.
Yeah.
And Scott Cornell. And,
wow, what a lineup.
Yeah, we went down to Slethley. And,
how old are you then?
19.
19, okay.
Yeah.
So, because your honours as an international, they were at under 19, under 21, and then at senior level as well for international, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So that breakthrough, when you talk about the Canadian tour, was that part of that process? Was that the under 19?
Definitely, under 19 tour to Canada. I was picked as a 10 originally, but Alan Lewis seen me as a 13 really, an outside centre. So when I went to Slethley, there'd been a partnership down there for years with Nigel Davis and Simon Davis,
of course,
the farmer from further down west, and they were looking for another 13. So Simon was sort of coming towards the end of his career, and lucky enough I just managed to fit in there nicely, like. Yeah, so.
Oh, well done. And I suppose, I know this happened further down the line, but you know, the rest is history, because in terms of stats, unless I got this wrong, and I'm sure you'll tell me if I have, 290 appearances for Slethley.
That's right, yeah.
Third time try scorer for the club.
That's right.
My God. How many tries?
101. Yeah.
So you were doing something, right?
Yeah. I had a brilliant time down in Slethley. Obviously 10 years down there, and you know, it was funny because every, say, couple of years people would be saying, oh, there's a centre now down in, I don't know, Llangennech or down in Narberth. He's joining in the summer and everything. That just spurred me on to do even more training down the Sanders, which Slethley didn't even know about.
Yeah.
But you know, when people say, oh, there's a 21-year-old coming in now, you're 24 now, and from Narberth, and then over the 10 years, probably, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 centres come and try.
Came and went.
But unfortunately, I had a partnership with Nigel Davis for a very long time down there. So.
And he was a pretty good 12.
Oh yeah, really good 12, intelligent.
And he went on to coach Welsh.
Yeah, coach Wales and coach Slethley.
Yeah.
But obviously, Gareth Jenkins was a brilliant coach.
I know he's made a big impression.
Incredible. He was like this Alex Ferguson of football and rugby, and every team talk maybe for 10 years was a different team talk, and he was really inspirational. I suppose because he played for Slethley, and he was from Slethley, and he knew the area and the town, and he knew what people expected. He was sensational really. But another great guy who sadly passed away, and he was really good to me down in Slethley, was a guy called Ray Gravel. Brilliant bloke, like, and because he was president of Slethley when I was down there, and every time I see him in the bar after, he'd grab hold of me and he'd shake me and say, oh, he's like, if you played with me, you should have scored 101 tries in Slethley, you scored 400. He said, I would have had about 7 or 8 on my back, and then I would have just offloaded you over the line every time. Like, and every time you see it, exactly the same story, but he was a brilliant bloke, and I miss him dearly.
He was Mr. Slethley, wasn't he?
Brilliant
he
guy.
Was.
Brilliant.
You know, and there's some big personalities and huge history associated with that club. So for you, travelling down west, I suppose, to do your training and then turn up there and week in, week out. Brilliant achievement. And
they were good as goal. I had Rupert Moon and Gary Jones, the back rower, were living in Pontypridd at the time, and they used to pick me up in sound services. And I remember because he came to one of my events recently, a guy called Phil Davis, the second row, and I never forget the first time I went down the tunnel in Stradley Park, and I was so nervous looking for the change room and I seen Phil Davis, like, and he gave me a big hug and a handshake and everything, and he just made me feel really at home, like, and I take my hat off to Rupert, Gary Jones, and obviously Phil Davis
Oh, Phil, we are talking about the Phil Davis now, aren't we? Because Phil coached at Llanelli.
Yeah,
I think he played back row as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
And
back
played
row,
pro.
second row, yeah.
And I remember, my God, I can remember one of the, you wouldn't get away with this today, but he had his jaw broken, didn't he, by Wade Dooley in that international? In the,
oh, right,
yeah.
Yeah.
My gosh, Phil's a big guy, but
yeah, massive guy.
Back in the day, I don't think even Dooley got carded for that. I think.
Well, then back in
different
them days,
times,
definitely not like no, but Phil he was a brilliant captain. Again, he's from Llanelli, he knew the town, he knew the area, and he was an inspiration as well. Like,
and he's still, in terms of how he makes a living these days, he's very much at the sort of. I think he does leadership and consultation and coaching.
He does all that, but he's also involved with the World Rugby now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's somehow he's involved with World Rugby and the referees. So I know Wayne Proctor's still involved with him and doing like fitness and that with the referees. Like, but he's managing to travel the world, and when I seen him a couple of weeks ago, he was in fine spirits.
Well, that's what gets me with Wales in a big way, because I know that it's parochial, it's small, it's a goldfish bowl, but the amount of talent that's come out of Wales, and particularly your neck of the woods, Bridgend. Yeah. I was at the event with you last week, your event, which we'll talk about later, and you had Adam Jones there, but then you had Gavin Henson, another Bridgend boy, who was a talent. Many argue didn't fulfill his potential, but many would argue that he did. So. And that's just a couple to name but a few. But the old brewery field, as we say, are produced. And those clubs, Tondu, Pencoed, they...
Yeah. Well, obviously we're playing for Tondu. A lot of probably got asked about 1 million times probably. Neil, why didn't you play for Bridgend? How didn't you play for Bridgend? You went to Litchard School, you went to Brynteg School, you literally lived 2 miles from the brewery field. But it just happened to be that I went on this tour, and Alan Lewis was the head coach of Llanelli, and obviously I got invited down, so that was the only reason really. Well,
it's funny, isn't it? We see it all the time. It's about turning up, being in the right place at the right time. Things happen for a reason. Definitely. You go on that tour to Canada. Obviously made a big impression on Mr. Lewis, and the rest is history. Yeah,
but going back to what you just said about obviously Bridgend and the talent.
Yeah.
I was involved in 1999 World Cup, and when you think maybe Bridgend and sort of Pontypridd and obviously the Celtic Warriors, but we had Rob Howley, he was the main scrum half, so he was from Bridgend. You had Neil Jenkins from Pontypridd, Alan Bateman from Bridgend, Scott Gibbs from Bridgend, David James from Bridgend, Gareth Thomas from Bridgend. So the 6 of the back line, well 5 were all from Bridgend, and obviously Shane Howarth from, where's he from? Newport, was he? And Shane Howarth,
I think he's back on a sheep farm in New Zealand now, isn't he?
Shane Howarth was obviously the full back, so 5 boys from Brynteg or Llanari, sorry.
Yeah.
We're playing for Wales in the 1999 World Cup, starting back line.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That group of names that you mentioned, you obviously know them well through rugby. As a kid growing up in Bridgend, did you know any of these guys? Were any sort of?
Well, they're probably similar sort of age. So the guys I remember going down to watch on a Wednesday night in the brewery field would have been people like, going back in the day, would have been JPR, Glenn Webb, Steve Fenwick, Aled Williams, the scrum half, Kevin Ellis, the scrum half. Yeah, all these, so these great players and great names playing down in the brewery field on a regular basis.
JPR, he's probably up there as one of the greats of all time.
Definitely.
Kevin, I think he went north, didn't he? Rugby league.
I think Kev's still playing, actually.
He's still playing?
Probably knowing Kev.
Back to you, though, and going back to, as you said, you were down at, you had a break in Llanelli, you made 290 appearances. In the 10 years that you were there, people came, people went, they didn't knock you out of position. What do you think, if somebody was to say, try and understand your psyche and your approach to the game, what are the drivers? What are the characteristics that have, in your opinion anyway, made you the successful rugby player that you were?
Probably number one is probably comes from within.
Yeah.
Don't want to be, I hate losing, don't want to be a loser, don't want to be number 2, and constantly just thriving to be the best you can be. And obviously down to Llanelli, another great guy, fitness guy called Peter Herbert, I know he's done really well a couple of weeks ago on this Hydrox over the stadium.
Yeah.
And he's still looking really fit. And he drove us as well, so there was, even it was amateur in obviously the 1990s and beginning of the 2000s. He used to put extra training sessions down in Carmarthen on the running track. And obviously Wayne Proctor was a good runner and used to run in. And obviously people like Dwayne Peel and Stephen Jones lived within probably about 10 minutes. But I thought, oh, do you know what, if they're doing extra speed sessions and running sessions, although I live in Bridgend and it's in Carmarthen on a Tuesday night, and probably won't get back till 11 o'clock of the night. It had to be done, I had to go down and do the extra training, and I suppose that's what made me stay fit and stay sharp and be number one internationally.
Well, that's important again, isn't it? You had to put sacrifice in. Definitely. You had to go up and down the M4, big work ethic. You see it as well in other sports like football. I think people like Frank Lampard, David Beckham would stay out practicing free kicks, and because Lampard's a good example, he said he thought he was a pretty ordinary person, but he worked and worked and worked and worked at his game. Clearly, you seem to be a similar ilk in that respect. Not everybody would drive to Carmarthen. It's quite a way, isn't it? And back and put that in and do those speed sessions, which are probably grueling.
Terrible.
So good on you.
Terrible.
Well, that's important because, again, this podcast, we like to talk about what defines you, what makes you, what drives you to sort of achieving whatever success you're out to get or what you may gain. But we also look as well at, or discuss, because I think we've all got our stories, setbacks, things that knock you back. And in the beginning, even before you necessarily became a full Welsh international, before you were established at Llanelli, were there, in reflecting and looking back, any times in your life where things happened that weren't part of the plan, but where you thought there was a reason for that and you came back stronger for it?
Probably when I was down in Llanelli, and probably after about 2 years things was going really well down there. There was a 1993 tour to British Lions to New Zealand, and obviously people like Scott Gibbs and Alan Baden were involved, and I was only 20, and then I got selected on the tour to go to Zimbabwe with Wales. And then come back and had a good season down at Llanelli, and then I think I played against Swansea down in St Helens and I broke my ankle. So I was in a plaster for 6 weeks, which was tough going. But it was probably a blessing in disguise really, because I was only 13 stone 10 at the time, and then people were saying, oh, you need to get on the weight, you need to get stronger and all. And I always thought, if I get stronger and bigger, then I'm going to lose the pace. But then Alan Lewis and Peter Herbert said, oh, don't go crazy on the weights. Get a lift down with Rupert and Gary on a Tuesday and a Thursday night, and just go in the gym. You've got your own crutches, and just start doing some weight training and some bench press and all that. So it was probably a blessing, it was. But then 2 weeks after the plaster, everything was going really well with the rehab and everything. And then unfortunately I broke it again, so that was another setback. And at the time I was in Bridgend College doing a HND in business and finance, so my mother had a guts full after six weeks taking me to college, and then 2 weeks later she had to take me back. It's another 6 weeks in plaster, so that was a major setback. But I suppose it was a blessing in disguise to keep training and do some extra weight sessions.
So that's a huge setback as a sports person. You've broken it, that's bad enough. You're inactive, that's bad enough, because part of a sports person's psyche is obviously being out there, being involved, particularly in a game like rugby. So you can't train, broke ankle. What happened? Did you break it during the rehab process, or was it? No,
I went out, did it, having a few beers. I'm not sure what happened. I think I was in a nightclub, and I think there was a few bottles on the table, on the floor, sorry, and I just went over on a bottle. Okay. And I went home, and it was like a balloon, and I said to my mother, I think you're back early, she said. I said, I know, I think I broke my ankle, I better not. So she came in and seen it. I said, that's definitely broken. So I'm down the hospital in the morning. Then I spoke to the physios and the doctors at Llanelli, and had an operation, and managed to fix it, and back playing within about 8 weeks. Yeah, so.
Wow, you were back playing within 8 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, that takes resilience in itself, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
You've been knocked
back. It's like anything, you're either going to chuck your toys at the pram, or you're going to say, right, I've been dropped or I haven't been selected, and I'm going to roll my sleeves up and I'm going to prove the coach or prove whoever wrong, do you know what I mean? Like, so.
And so you recovered from that, you stood down at Llanelli, and great coaches, you mentioned Gareth Jenkins.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think I've asked you this question before, you know, who's the best coach you've ever worked with, this, that, yeah, and I know how highly you speak of Gareth Jenkins. What's so special about Gareth Jenkins? Probably his
enthusiasm. Yeah, he's very bubbly, he's always up for coaching, there's never a dull moment with him, and like I said earlier, he obviously played for the club against the All Blacks, played a number of seasons down there, Llanelli person, knows the town, knows the history, so for me that goes such a long way in coaching, especially at club level.
In his DNA?
Definitely, yeah.
And I've heard other players say it. The reason I asked you the question, I went back to it, is I've heard lots of other people, because he ended up coaching Wales, didn't he, for a short period of time.
Yeah.
But they say similar things to you, that his enthusiasm, his passion, the fact that he genuinely cared about his players, all of his players.
Yeah, brilliant.
And as you mentioned, the Sir Alex Ferguson sort of parallel, that sort of standout personality who commanded respect because he'd been there and done it, but genuinely had an empathy, if you like, with his players.
Yeah, not an easy thing to, you know, people, you know, coaching. You got 30 players in your squad.
Yeah.
Only 15 are going to play on a Saturday, so the other 15 are going to be disappointed. Some of them are going to roll their sleeves up. Some of them are going to chuck their toys out of the pram. Some of them are going to ask for a meeting on a Friday afternoon or a Friday night or a Thursday night, and he's got to deal with deselection or and being selected, and he's got to, you know, tell the player why he's not playing and all that. Like, so, you know, it's not just the coaching on the field. It's the whole, you know, dealing with players who are disappointed, and it's, you know, it's a tough role.
I'll try again. I'll go there again, because I said you come from a big rugby family. There were 3 of you at Llanelli. How did Roddy and Ian sort of follow you down the M4? What happened there?
Well, Ian got approached by Neath probably about a year before I went down to Llanelli, and obviously he was probably suited to Neath, you know, pretty much tough rugged
back row player.
Yeah, tough rugged forward, and obviously Neath were renowned for the physicality and a bit of thuggery, I suppose, but he probably fitted him and suited him well, and but then in every season he probably seen that Llanelli were winning cup after cup after cup, and probably playing on the Principalities, Millennium Stadium at the time, and it was obviously back in the day there was obviously the big competition is now is Europe Champions Cup. Yeah. Back in the day it was Swalek Cup or Sweps Cup, and and I remember going down to Llanelli, because obviously we'd go down on a Saturday morning early, say about 10 o'clock, and then we'd stay down, have a little bit of food. We'd go to Terry Griffiths to play a bit of snooker or anything like before the game, and then we'd travel up to Cardiff about 12 o'clock. And obviously, because I was going down the M4 at 10 o'clock in the morning, the amount of buses going the other way, obviously, up to Cardiff was incredible. I could have counted 100, 120 coaches at 10:30 in the morning. So he always said, oh, I'd love to win that cup, especially Ian. I'd love to win the cup and all that. I said, well, come and join Llanelli and all. So he made a few inquiries and everything, and then he managed to come down to Llanelli, and he won the cup a few times as well, like so. But Roddy was playing he had a great season in Swansea, and then they let him go. I think Scott Gibbs was down there and Mark Taylor. And I said, well, come on. Anyway, he managed to get a contract for a year down in Llanelli, and we played over in Donnybrook in Ireland against Leinster. And I think it's still true. I think it's the right start. I think it was the first time ever 3 brothers have scored in the same game against opposition. So that's amazing. Yeah, I've done a bit of research, so I'm lucky by us. I did not know that. So 3 brothers on the field, and you all scored a try. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a good piece of trivia for a quiz. Isn't it? Yeah. But he was. Obviously his game was, you know, hard forward and everything, but he, you know, he managed to adapt in that year, and he managed to play a bit and all that, and obviously we had a massive game against Wasps in the European Cup. We got to 2 European Cup finals, and unfortunately we lost 2, but a great story was so Scott Cornell and Simon Easterby were in the back row against Wasps, and we had to beat them by 10 points to qualify for the semi-final of the cup. Anyway, we managed to beat them by exactly 10 points. But anyway, the build-up of the game was brilliant, because on about a Tuesday, Scott Cornell pulls me over upstairs, we're having food. I said, Neil, keep it quiet, but we're going to wind your brother up all week now, so make sure he's ready for Saturday. I said, Scott, don't wind him up now, he's wound up enough anyway, really. No, so we go up for food now, and he look over, he said, Honey, where's your brother? I said, he's over there. So we pick up the chair, and him and Simon Easterby, and put it a little bit closer. So close enough that he could hear, but he wouldn't be involved in the conversation. So we'd go something like, Simon, have you spoke to Laura Stelalio about the game on Saturday? Yeah. Oh yeah, I was on the phone to him last night, because I went to school with Laura, same school Simon Easterby. Oh yeah, the first thing he said, who's the back row for Saturday? Oh, he said, I'm playing 6, Simon says, Scott's playing 8, and Ian Boobier's playing number 7. And so Scott says, what do you say about that, Simon? He said, you've never heard of Ian Boobyer, like. So you could see him now thinking. So next thing, about 2 seconds later, Ian's on the table now. Simon, what did he tell you? He said, oh, Ian, calm down. No, you said that. No, can't go back over there. So Thursday come now, and so it was Scott's turn then. So Scott said, I was on the phone to you last night. He said, what's the back row? So Simon used to be 6. I made an Ian Boobyer. I was talking to Simon the day. I haven't heard of Ian Boobyer now and again, and you could hear, so he's come over like this now, and on Friday on the team run, he was going ballistic. Now, Ian, calm down. So anyway, first scrum, obviously he's a 7, open side flanker, and Delalio's number 8, and obviously Lawrence didn't know anything about this whatsoever, did he? So Lawrence picks up the ball, and my brother like smashes him to the ground, right? And he said, have you heard of me now? And he's like, what are you on about? You're on about, I guess. And then obviously, and that's going back in that day, there was no going in half time. He was always out on the pitch and in a huddle, bit of water, few oranges and that. So I think we went in by about 7 points or something in half time. So Scott was captain, and Scott Cornell get us all in a huddle like that. So we go like, so he just goes like, 1 to 14, and he, Neil, where's your brother? I said, I'm not sure. He said, has he gone in for a toilet now? I said, I'm not sure. I just made a tackle over there. Now half time, I just come over here now, and so Scott looks at across to the huddle now, and my brother's in the huddle. So I run over. Ian, what are you doing? In their huddle. Yeah, in their huddle. I say, what are you doing, man? Scott wants to. No, I'm just making sure now that he knows who I am. He heard of me, like so. Whatever Simon and Scott did, it actually worked.
Oh my God! Oh my God! What a great story.
Yeah, so good story. Yeah.
I love it. Only in rugby, eh?
And another good one I know. Obviously we played against the All Blacks, didn't we? In I'm not sure what year it was, but and obviously they beat the All Blacks in 1973. So 9-3. We got absolutely smashed. I don't know what it was. They maybe I think it was 81-3 actually. Oh my God! Because they were saying 8 + 1 is 9, so it's the same score as 1973 and everything. So, but my claim to fame was I did sidestep Jonah Lumo 3 times, but he did have the ball.
I think I heard that one. Phil Steele uses that one a lot, doesn't he? But again, it wasn't 1973, and that was remarkable, the team that beat the All Blacks. And then I think it was 1971, the Lions had beaten them, and then we had all of those Welsh superstars. So I think a lot of Welsh teams have come up a bit short against the All Blacks since then. So never mind. There's
good experience, isn't it?
There's things to look ahead to as well. Before we touch upon World Cups and this, that, and the other, your history with Wales, 7 international caps. I think you made your debut in Zimbabwe.
That's right.
What's your memories of Wales as player?
Oh well, fantastic memories, and going away as a youngster with all people I've probably looked up to playing. People like Robert Jones, and people look at and Scott Gibbs and Phil Davis. I know Mark Perigo. Obviously Scott Cornell was same sort of age, but being on tour with these older guys, like 5 or 6 years older, and when I was like 17 or whatever, they used to look at him on the Five Nations at the time and think, oh God, he's a good player, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden you're playing with him in the same environment and training with them on a regular basis.
I know the Cornell family, again renowned for their commitment and their passion for Welsh rugby, from Derek all the way through. Yeah. Scott, how good was he?
Oh, Scott was brilliant. Yeah. beauty of Scott, he was probably about between 18 and 19 stone, and probably about 6'3", 6'4". But what he had good pair of hands for a back rower, but his main strength, he had a low sense of gravity.
Yeah.
So even when you think that he's going to get knocked down or he's just going to go to the floor, maybe 6 or 8 inches even off the floor, he managed to get up and keep running. So, and that was shown clearly when they played against France in, I think it was 1994. I think, I'm not sure, when the ball was thrown at the back of the line out and he scored against France from about 40 yards. And if you look at that video, that try in particular, he must have been lowest to the ground maybe 3 or 4 times in that one run of foot, but he managed to get up and keep going and get up. So
scored in the corner, didn't he?
Scored right in the corner, but next to the flag. Yeah. So
I'm glad you said that, because and I think, well, everybody will have an opinion, but I thought he was an outstanding player.
Brilliant.
As did his father, as did Gavin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As did Craig.
Yeah.
So brilliant. And
obviously, what was evident, I'd mentioned then about his good hands, and that was when he passed to Scott Gibbs up in Wembley in 1999, and probably everybody thought that Scott wasn't going to pass it, and he had a bit of a juggle, which probably made them come towards Scott more than they should have, really. And then obviously passed it to Scott Gibbs, and Scott went off and done a few dances and managed to trip over and fell over under the post. So. And
left the ball out wide, so Neil Jenkins had a problem.
Yeah. And I was on the bench, so it was just probably my highlight of my career. Probably the emotion and the passion and everything to do. It was like literally 2 minutes to go up in Wembley, and
it was the last game at Wembley.
Last game in the last
Five Nations.
Two things: last game in Wembley and last game in the Five Nations. And obviously, if England had won, and I think what I do remember was the cup was there with all the ribbons and everything. And if we beat England, then the cup was going on a helicopter straight up to Edinburgh, which that's what happened. It went straight up there. But Neil Jenkins, what do you think the pressure he must have been under in that kick? But I've spoken to him on numerous occasions, and he said, Neil, it was just another normal kick. He just said, I go through my repertoire, what I got to do every single kick, whether it's right in front of the post, whether it's on the halfway line, whether it's against the touch line. I just go through the same rhythm, whatever, every single kick, and it was no problem. But he did say that he knew people like Neil Back, Martin Johnson, Johnny Wilkinson, Lawrence, really, really well, obviously through the Lions, and they'd been fantastic to him over his career. But on that particular occasion, he said the names they were calling him behind the obviously because they were going on for a Grand Slam, and obviously there was a lot of, I'd imagine there was a lot of money on the line as well for winning a Grand Slam as well. So he had a lot of abuse, but
broad shoulders. Then he managed to block it out, and the rest is history.
Brilliant.
I'm going to push on. I want to ask you a couple more questions, just touching outside of rugby as well, because like everything in sport, it comes to an end. You eventually left Llanelli. You had a small stint, and I think at Pontypridd.
That's right, yeah.
But then, and we'll come back to Pontypridd shortly, but then you went back you got back involved with Llanelli some years later with Scott on a coaching capacity.
Right, yeah.
Just sum that up. What was that experience like?
Yeah, brilliant. I obviously played down in Llanelli for 10, 11 years, and then obviously went up to Pontypridd for a season, and then I got approached there and said, fancy coming back down to Llanelli. Scott's back on board, he's going to do some coaching. I think they had a pretty disappointing season previously. Yeah. Obviously, it's a semi-pro league. I think it was near the bottom, and I said, "Yeah, I'd love to come down." But I'd done it for 2 years, and to be honest, it was brilliant, but it was hard going, because obviously I was coaching the Rhondda schools, and I'd finish about 6 o'clock, and I had a young family at the time as well, and I'd travel then from the Rhondda to Llanelli. Probably take me about an hour, and then train 7 o'clock till say 9 or 9:30, and then get home about 10:30.
Wow.
On a phone call, it sounds fantastic, but in reality, it did. In the end, it was a bit draining, and obviously, probably from November to January, it was probably lashing down with rain. Obviously, in the Rhondda, it always rains up there, and then get to Llanelli, and but it was fantastic time. But what was great was. I think we got like up to about third in the league, and then we did play Pontypridd in the final. Obviously, it was the same cup as previously 20 years ago or 15 years ago, but obviously the crowd wasn't enough. And to be honest, I hadn't trained for like, certainly hadn't done any running for like 6 to 9 months. And then half time we were losing something like 17-3, and we were just coming down the tunnel for the second half. And I had trainers on, and Scott says, "Oh Neil, just make sure whoever's subbing by there now, just grab a pair of boots because you're going on now in 2 minutes." He said, like.
God.
I said, "Scott, I haven't trained for 9 months. Tomorrow," he said, "you're going on." He said, "We need a bit of experience, and we need to sort out how we're going to get smashed." Like.
What happened?
But anyway, well, what happened was we scored about 3 or 4 tries in the second half. I scored 1 try. I think we went on to win something like 29-17. So, but
see, leadership.
Yeah,
I know what you're doing.
But I think I was more luck than judgment.
Well, I put it down to experience and talent.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to your business career, okay? We've got a few minutes there, so just want to touch upon it, because you do some great work in the community with Rhondda Schools. You're still heavily involved with Rhondda Schools, and I think still in a coaching capacity. You do a tremendous amount of fundraising as well through your business. You started business in 2011, but your event side of that, I think you started that in 2018, and that's gone through the roof, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, question, how did you get into events, and are you enjoying running a business?
First question is, there was I don't know if you remember, there was a massive Rhondda Rhondda Hall of Fame back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, run through Bernard Jones, who was my father-in-law at the time.
And he was a brilliant entrepreneur, wasn't he?
Fantastic guy, fantastic bloke, fantastic businessman. And he ran a Hall of Fame up in the Rhondda Sports Centre. Yeah. And anybody and everybody in Welsh sport were in attendance. And obviously I met his daughter, and obviously went out with her for a number of years and got married. But probably about 2 or 3 years later, he said, "Oh Neil, when you come up to Rhondda and to this sports dinner, Hall of Fame," and oh God, I was blown away. There was like, I couldn't believe it, 750 people in a room, and it was like, and then they had the spotlight, Gareth Edwards on table 7, or Terry Griffiths on table 9, or you name it, darts, horse racing, football, rugby, everybody was up there. People like guest speakers like Bruce Forsyth, Brian Clough, some fantastic
all in the Rhondda
entertainment and sport, all in the Rhondda. Wow. On this particular day. It was
and that's down to Bernard.
Bernard, yeah, it was immense. But obviously when he sold the company in 2000, and obviously when I finished playing as well, he said, obviously I got involved. Firstly, I got involved with the coaching in Bridgend, because obviously Celtic Warriors were still were going. So he had through Bayes, we had a development system, brilliant development system in Pontypridd and the Rhondda. Chris and Clive Jones in the Rhondda, and then people like Neil Jenkins would help out. Now we get Martin Williams would help out, Dale McIntosh would help out. So they had the best, academy system going in Wales, as far as I'm concerned. And obviously when it finished a year later, he said, "Do you fancy going up to Rhondda, do some coaching?" And I said, with Chris and Clive, and I was like, oh gosh, I've heard of, obviously when we were playing at Leslie, at the time they had the Dream, didn't they, in Torquay, and obviously when we went up to play in Torquay, they'd have especially Chris, they'd have the Ghetto Blaster going next door, because you could hear it, I hear the Tiger, and I went, oh God, it was like, and then you heard stories that he used to carry an axe in his bag and everything, Chris, and then this is the guy who got banned twice for life, and I was like, oh God, I'm going to work with them guys, you know what I mean? Like, I went up there, I had a meeting with Chris and Clive, and obviously I work with Chris basically every day of the week, and what an incredible guy, how he's managed to turn his life around has been incredible, and he is Mr.
Well, I think we should get him on a future podcast.
Brilliant, honestly. Brilliant. Neil, so anyway, I got into events because they sold the company, and then I'd seen Bernard, and he said, "All right, Neil, what you need to do now is you set up Rhondda Schools like Hall of Fame lunch," and I was like, I can't run it, I can't do that. Oh, here's all the contacts, he said, like people like Hutch's Garages, Travis Perkins, all different companies. Anyway, so started doing it. Didn't have a clue what I was doing really. And the first ever event I ran was down in the Vale Hotel, believe it or not, which was underground. It was, and Rod Woodward, the comedian, was the guest speaker, and he had the old Italian wig on at the time, and he started off with about 200, and then build it up. We did to say 250. Then we went to the Miskin Manor. We had a marquee. We had Max Boyce, Gareth Edwards would come along, Warren Gatland when he first come over here. That was brilliant. And then we'd always have a debrief on a Monday, and then he said, "Oh, do you know what? This is getting bigger and better." I tell you what, Neil, he said, it was myself, Tommy, David, Bernard. I think we should go to Cardiff from now on. And I was like apprehensive because a lot of people coming from the Rhondda, whether they support it, but anyway. So that was fantastic. And I thought probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I thought, I needed Mr. Trick here really, because obviously people who come to the Rhondda Schools Hall of Fame lunch are obviously businesses looking after their clients, looking after their customers, and they're obviously involved in hospitality. So I thought, do you know what I'll do now? There was Autumn Internationals in November, probably about June at the time, and I set up a little company, and I thought I'll just send these people a little flyer saying, would they be interested in hospitality for Six Nations, and
they all came.
And they all come. And then as you're doing it, you have an event, you build it up, and then other people you never know who's in the room. I always say that all the time. And then people will come, I'll say, I'm from Tyback Rugby Club, or I'm from Tigerstone Rugby Club. Any chance you've got a business card? Do you fancy doing an event up there, or Pencoed Rugby Club? So it started off probably doing, 6 or 7 events here. Probably.
Well, I can vouch for it, because you're a very generous man, and you've invited me to quite a few of your events. With Rob Summerhill, I know you work with Rob, he does work with you. And I've sat in those events on numerous occasions, and they are all, the ones I've been to, they've always been sold out. The room is full of very well-known people from the business community, the sporting community, and everything else. But the thing that sums everything up for me, Neil, is that genuinely you are more than just a rugby player. You're a brilliant community ambassador. You do fantastic work with Rhondda Schools. You're a very astute businessman. You've got a great company that you're running. You've developed it, and you've used your contacts initiative and everything else. But more importantly, I just think you're a great person, and your commitment and your contribution to rugby over the years and the community, Bridgend should be proud of you. Neil, thank you very much for coming to speak to me today.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.